I'm just going to start really by talking through some of the quick wins that I think we've come up with ideas that you could put into practice. I think quick wins, as we go through the kind of presentation a bit more, is obviously kind of a subjective term. I think for most people, quick means obviously quick to my kids means it's going to happen that day or this weekend or whatever. I think quick to most tour operators really mean kind of 3 to 6 months. So I think some of the things I'm going to focus on really are kind of 3 to 6 month timescales. I think that giving people the impression that some of these things can be put into place too quickly is probably a bit misleading. I don't know how many people have heard of Open Destinations. We're kind of obviously ETOA members, and hopefully you've met Adam on our stand over the course of the day. We provide reservation systems for tour operators and wholesalers around the world. We've got probably about 10,000 plus users logged into our systems every day. We've been growing at a quite significant rate over the last kind of 5 years really, and really that growth is kind of underpins by the kind of products and services we provide, because we provide services that people want. Obviously, we've been growing and getting new projects and so on. We've got a team of about 400 spread across our offices in London and Goa. And, in the last couple of years, we've been ranked in the kind of Sunday Times export track, as part of the kind of top 100 kind of growth companies, and kind of doing projects in, different countries around the world, really. In fact, if we look at our client base, we've got clients all the way from Alaska, where we provide the reservation system for Alaska Railroad, through to Australia. We're just putting in the system for Great Southern Rail at the moment, Creative Holidays, various other kind of tour operators in Australia as well, and the kind of the world in between. I think one of the things that we have focused on really is kind of medium to large tour operators around the world. So I think in 5 or 6 of the countries around the world, we've got the kind of top tour operator in that destination, kind of using our products and services. Obviously, some of the customers down the bottom. So I think when I talk about quick wins, it's really drawing on that experience from different tour operators around the world and things that I've seen them do that have had an impact on them. In terms of our approach, I mean, we think that every tour operator needs to approach a technology project with a kind of quick win view. I think one of the best projects you can do really is to have a clear vision as to what you want to achieve and make sure that there's a kind of clear scope and everyone understands what you need to do from there. So I think obviously the technology has to be adaptable and flexible, and you have to have a kind of a process that allows you to develop and gather ideas from different parts of the business and so on going forward. And you need experts in the fields, so I think one of the successes for technology companies really is having people who've worked in the industry, who know the kind of industry, who know the processes, maybe have had the opportunity to sit back and kind of look at different businesses and look and see, why is this business successful and why is this business hasn't been successful, even though they're using exactly the same technology. In the main, my experience is it's down to the management team. It's down to the way that people manage the business, the way that they execute the strategy they've got, the way they put things into place and so on. And that really is the difference. I mean, obviously, it's obviously about product and service and all the rest of it, but those are really manifestations of the management team and how they kind of make sure that business kind of works on a kind of day to day. I think one of the things that is useful to do is to kind of implement software kind of in a modular way. It's useful to kind of think about how you're going to do things stage one piece at a time, to have a kind of clear target for what the business needs to do now, to have a clear idea of the priorities you're going to do, and then implement things from there. And I think if you can get software that you can implement in stages, then obviously whether it's B2B, B2C first, API second, or whatever it's going to be. But I think it's good to have a clear understanding of what you're going to do. And then think about the short-term needs of the business, what's going to drive kind of revenue and profits going forward, and then go through from there. So the first kind of quick win I'm going to talk about really is automating more of your manual processes. And I think there's in any kind of technology implementation that we've done, you get to the point where you're trying to implement a system across a kind of wide scope of the business, and it's not always possible to do that. You have to make compromises. Things have to be done quicker or for less budget, or you have to kind of manage the scope and so on. So I think there's always things that kind of fall by the wayside that people don't have time to automate and kind of want to come back to at a later time. I mean, they tend to be they don't tend to be the low-hanging fruit, really. They tend to be the ones that maybe don't save you the most money, or maybe don't contribute the most revenue, or aren't the sexy kind of new products that are going to kind of take you forward as a business or whatever. So, but there tends to be a kind of a large list of those in many businesses, and I think one of the first things that we recommend really is that businesses kind of draw up a kind of 2B as to what they think the business should look like in the future. And I think typically in a consulting process, people will work out what they call an as-is, which documents the business now and explains how the business operates. And then the second part really is to kind of work out, what the 2B is, whether it's a new website, new processes, getting rid of a product department and outsourcing that or whatever. So, really looking at how they can, automate the business going forward. There's a few ideas here on kind of product management, rules and special offers, confirmations, creating price updates and so on. And all those things, in my experience, when you look at most businesses, they've got small teams of people who take those processes and do them manually. For whatever reason, they take out things into spreadsheets and then put them back in later. So it tends to be that those things, which are quite critical, they're quite hard to automate. That's often the reason why that happens. And I think, one of the first things to look at in quick wins really is, what is that low-hanging fruit? What are the things that maybe there's 1-2 people in the business that's doing those kind of manual, repetitive tasks, probably complex tasks, so you can look and see whether the software you've got actually automates that and whether it can do something for you. So I think that's a key thing. I mean obviously the top point is really key. I mean, the more cost you can take out of the business, the more profitable they're going to be. And, that's really what it's all about. I mean, you can grow your top line, grow your revenue line, and obviously everyone tries to do that. But, the kind of one of the keys to having a successful, profitable business is to make sure you focus on your costs, really. If you focus on your costs, then you can ride if your revenue doesn't achieve the kind of heights that you put down in your projections and that you'd like to achieve, but at least you've got some nimbleness really in the profitability going forward. So I think all these things really are about how do you take cost out of the business, how do you automate things that will ultimately drive the profitability. I think API plugins. I mean today today's world is all about kind of content really and integration, and gone are the days when businesses really exist in their silos and go and contract, put things into a kind of product database, and then sell those things in that database. Everyone wants real-time connections to kind of suppliers and distributors and wholesalers and so on, so they can pick up that data and use it within their business. It's kind of interesting. We're going to talk a little bit more about outsourcing. We provide outsourcing services to a large UK tour operator, and they were telling me that they're going to cut back one of their teams from kind of I think 5 people down to 3 people over the next kind of couple of months really. And the reason was that it wasn't because they were unhappy with the service we provided. It was because they'd worked out that in one destination, Thailand, they had 450 contracts with hotels, and really what they sold is about kind of 40. And what had happened over the years is that the business had thought, well, to compete against the big boys, what I need to do is go and get more and more content and more sophistication. So when my customer goes onto the website, I can show them kind of, I've got 80 hotel contracts in Thailand, a bit like Simon was saying earlier. And, that large kind of, batch of data that nobody's ever going to read, is kind of useless really, but it's taken a lot of time and effort to get all that data together. So, one of the kind of, the big things that we've seen really is people looking at that long tail of product they've got and working out, well, where does it make sense? I mean, if you're not doing, I don't know, $50,000 or $20,000 a year on a particular hotel contract, then, why not get rid of it? Why not just outsource it to somebody else? Go to, Jack Travel or Hotel Beds or whatever it is and get the content from them. And then if your customer buys it, sure, you make a bit less margin, but, it's more cost effective to do that. So I think the kind of API plugins really is, and looking at that kind of product data is a useful thing. I think, product information management is the kind of other side, is, another quick win. I mean, again, it's probably stating the obvious, but, I think as the race to have more and more content, and people have built kind of side databases with lots of information about it, pictures database, kind of video database, and so on. And I think one of the the important things really is to kind of rationalize and make sure that you're not storing too much data, that you've got it in one central system. There's one version of the truth, as it's kind of, again, Simon said in his kind of previous presentation. And and I think it's important then to make sure that you've got one source of data that can power your websites or your or your kind of online conversations with your customers and so on. Next one really is customer information monitoring. I think obviously, if you have happy customers and you keep those customers, then retention is going to drive the business really. And I think a lot maybe in this room are kind of B2B as well. So it's not about having millions and millions of consumers. It's about having kind of strong business relationships with a small number of people who drive a lot of the business you get on a kind of a month by month, year by year basis. So I think making sure that they're happy and that you understand exactly what they buy from you, what they want from you, what their payment history is. I mean, the number of customers, having worked in tour operators before, I remember we had a big Israeli customer who did a couple of £1 million a year business with us and never paid. The management team were fantastic. They thought it was a fantastic client. Used to put a charter into Africa once a week, with lots of people, but they never paid for the thing. And then at the end of the season, they went bust. And everyone thought, well, great, that was a complete waste of time. So I think, kind of looking at your customer, making sure that you understand, what they're buying from you, whether they're paying you, again, bottom line, what kind of other products they can get that they're buying from other people, I think is key. So I think, that kind of customer side and maybe plugging a CRM system that allows you to do that is a key thing. Process outsourcing. So, we provide process outsourcing, so I kind of obviously kind of lay my hand on the deck. I think not every win really has to involve software. I think some of the success stories that we've worked with over the years really have decided very early on that it's that there's no point having people managing product data if they're not really adding any value. You might as well have somebody else to do that who can do that in an effective way and an efficient way, and take the benefit of focusing on other parts of your business. Kind of makes more sense. We've worked with companies like Desnology, for example, who have gone from 2 people working for them on our team to about 20 over the last 6-7 years, and really enable them to get their kind of product data together to put a lot more. They're specialising in things like Indian Ocean contracts, complex contracts that need to go into a system that they provide. So you need somebody to do that for you, or you're just going to have an army of people doing it. We all know that the secret in business is not necessarily to try and have more and more staff, it's to have less staff in some ways. The more staff you've got, the more you've got to manage, the more processes you've got to put in place to kind of manage them, make sure that they're doing the thing that they should be doing. So, being able to take processes that you have in your business and to say, okay, well, that I'm going to let somebody else manage. I'm going to focus on my core strategy of getting the best price or getting the right customer or distributing my product. And I'm going to take some of these things and I'm going to have somebody else look after them for it. I'm going to have a set of SLAs, service level agreements that kind of allow you to monitor whether they're doing the job correctly or not, and then focus on kind of managing them to do it. I think in terms of making it successful, we wouldn't recommend your key USPs. Don't outsource your kind of sales center. We don't get involved in customer-facing outsourcing because we don't think that it's possible really to get that right. I mean, maybe if you're selling kind of screwdrivers or something, it's easier. But if you're selling people's dreams through holidays or complex products like tours and things like that, it's very hard to to really have somebody who's passionate about the business in the same way that you are. So I think there's some kind of good lessons you can learn as to what to outsource. It's crucial to get good reporting as to what people are doing, and it's interesting that we provide outsourcing services to a number of UK and overseas tour operators, and at the end of each day, during the day we'll get a list of things that they need to do, and they'll often come through emails and electronic kind of spreadsheets and things like that. At the end of each day, we give a report that says, these are all the things we got today, these 100 contracts, whatever, if it's product management. These are the things we've done. These are the ones that are ready for checking. These are the ones that we haven't done. And this is the kind of productivity we've had for the people working on the team. And, for most businesses, that information would never exist if you're doing it yourself. You would get to the point where at the end of each day, you're asking people, what have we got to do? Well, let me go and check this sheet to go and see what else we've got to do in the kind of in the workload that needs to get done. So I think outsourcing in some instances can actually enhance the service that you provide or the kind of tasks that you're trying to outsource, and give you more information and more control over that than trying to do it yourself. So I think that's it's definitely worth kind of looking at. I think we've, I mean, I won't go through the kind of case studies in too much detail really, but I think the key is that there are different things that people outsource, and I think it's a kind of a useful quick win that every business should at least be exposed to thinking about. You should be asking yourself, well, is there some cost I can take out of the business? Is there something I can do that I don't have to focus on? That I don't need to expand my office space because I've got kind of the option of outsourcing part of that business and those people to somebody else. And I think obviously the kind of at the end of it, I think if you're going to put some of these things into place, you need to find a kind of reliable technology partner. We've all got our pros and cons. I think obviously it's we're specialists in certain areas. Comtech are specialists in other areas as well, and I think it's all about kind of making sure that you find the right company for the kind of projects that you want to do, and the kind of and your vision of what you want technology to do in the business. So I think that some of the things up there, obviously you'll be using people like Paul Richard to kind of do a kind of search and selection or whatever. But I think it's important that you find the right company with the right fit, both culturally, technological, and vision to kind of make sure it kind of works for you. Okay. So that's the end of the kind of quick wins. I mean, what I was going to say is, obviously 15 minutes talking about quick wins. I mean, we're obviously very happy if anyone wants to kind of have us to look at your business and have one of our consultants spend a day in the business and kind of look at what quick wins we think we could come up with. Then, we're happy to do that. So if anyone's interested in that, then give me a business card and we can give you a call after the kind of show and see what we can do for you. And obviously there's no cost for that. Okay, thank you very much.